Hey friends, Rick Morton here for the Crimson Chronicles Podcast. Tommy and I are thrilled to be back with the second season of our show. We're looking forward to this upcoming season as we share conversations with many of the luminaries from the storied past of Crimson Tide men's basketball. This week for episode 2, we continue our two-part interview with a man whose name is synonymous with the Crimson Tide, Coach Wimp Sanderson. Unfortunately, when we recorded our interview with Coach Sanderson, we have a few technical glitches. We apologize in advance for the weird cuts in the video and losing Coach's video at the end, but this interview was too good not to share. We appreciate your understanding. Now, sit back and enjoy our conversation with the legend Wimp Sanderson. Roll Tide. All right, welcome back again to the Crimson Chronicles Podcast. I'm Rick Morton, and we are in part 2 of our conversation with Coach Wimp Sanderson. We had a great sit down with him last week and talked a little bit about his origins at the University of Alabama, his time serving as a graduate assistant and as a assistant coach, and so now we're going to spend some time talking about the years that he served as the head man. But before we do that, I want to welcome in my broadcast partner, Tommy Ford. Tommy, how you doing today?
I'm great, Rick. How are you? Coach, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks.
Good. Great to have you. I'll get started, Rick, if you want me to.
Yeah, man, let's go ahead.
Coach, thanks for being on part 1.
Sure.
Learned a lot about you and heard some funny stories, but you had a great book that came out, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago called Plaid and Parquet.
Yeah, it was well written.
And I would encourage anybody to try to find it because it's a fascinating read. And in that book, you wrote that starting in the late 1970s, Coach Newton really didn't feel appreciated as Alabama's head coach. I'm not sure the origin behind that, but when did you sense that he might be leaving, and how did that all come down?
I think, I won't name them, there were a couple of people at the university that he wasn't comfortable with. And I won't name them, but they bothered him. And I think he felt like he'd had enough. We won about all of it. We were going to win. And I can't remember what else happened, but I think Evelyn, I think he had enough. He wasn't, I'll say this in the right way, he wasn't real big on recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
As far as going out and seeing a lot of guys and trying to evaluate guys. That wasn't one of his things he enjoyed doing. I had done most of it really, most of it, but not without trying to say I'd done it all. I didn't do it all, but I had done a lot of it. And of course, anytime if you're the head coach, you're the person behind the coaches, and they go because of you, because of the head coach, not because of me. But you had to work them really hard. We're in the process of Sonny's teams at Auburn, and we were in the process then of Gene Bartow coming into UAB with a bigger name than I had. And basically, when I got the job, about the only people that were glad to see me get it was Annette and the 3 boys. The rest of them said that they didn't want basketball at Alabama. They hired a guy that had not been a head coach. And they pretty much nailed me pretty good. We had one writer, whatever you want to call him, that busted me just about every day about something. And so anyway, it wasn't a very favorable hire when they hired me. And so that was okay.
Well, Coach, how did you go to Coach Bryant, put your name in the hat? Do you just set up appointments?
Well, I think a lot of the alums I had worked with them in trying to recruit these players, and they felt like they knew that recruiting was going to be you win games by getting better players than your opponent and getting them to play hard. That's what happens. And so I think they felt like that we were going to lose a bunch of players if we didn't stay after them. They felt like I think I was the one that had stayed after them, and they had worked. Not that we were doing a bunch of cheating and all that kind of stuff. We might have got them a summer job. In fact, I got one that played Miami football the other day. I saw his picture on there with Coach Bryant, Coach Newton. I'd gotten him a summer job on blank now. But anyway, I think they felt like that talking to the powers that be and Dr.
Thomas.
No, it wasn't Joe Abb. It was before the young one, the young guy.
Oh, David Matthews.
David Matthews, yeah.
Yeah.
And David was comfortable with me, and we had a lot of success, and I don't know, just getting Alabama players was not easy to do because UAB had come in there and was trying to get some, and got few, but not many. And Sonny was doing what he could do, and people were coming in trying to get players. So I guess because of what I had done recruiting wise, maybe I had a little bit of a leg up on it. I'm not sure whether I did or not. I didn't know. I think they interviewed a couple of other people, so I got it.
So, Coach, Tommy asked you about the putting your name in the hat with Coach Bryant, and you had a lot of years in and around the program around Coach Bryant. Give us your thoughts about Coach Bryant. What was it like to be part of the athletic program with him as an athletic director, and what are maybe some things you learned from him?
Coach Bryant was never a guy that you got real close to, even if you were an assistant football coach. I would go by and listen to his meetings sometimes if I had a chance to. I got Coach Bryant. They gave me, Miss Bryant wanted me to have it, and I had Coach Bryant's office after he left. And, of course, he had one of those big, nice offices, and that was great. But he was not one of these guys that you were real close to him. You knew him, and he knew you, but you were very careful about what you said and how you said it and so forth. And the coaches in the mornings in the old athletic building there would go back in the back and drink coffee. And if Coach Bryant had if he decided he wanted a 5:30 staff meeting in football, he'd have it, but he wouldn't tell you. You better be catching on. You better be finding out where Coach Bryant. He wasn't going to call and say, "Oh, by the way, we're going to have a 5:30 meeting in the morning." He didn't tell you jack crap. He didn't tell you nothing. You didn't know anything. So that's the kind of way he operated. And occasionally he would come back there where all the guys were standing there telling stories about football practice and so forth. And when he did, there was a hush come over the crowd. There wasn't nobody with. We had an old guy that was dusted and cleaned up back there, and he would tell something. When Coach Bryant walked in there, he dusted everything in sight. He grabbed that dust rag. He'd dust your face if you didn't watch out. He's dusting everything that breathed. But you never knew what. A lot of us, dude Hennessy was one of the characters, and he would know Coach Bryant's schedule better than Coach Bryant would. Dude would be darn sure that he knew what we had a school plane, but we also had times somebody's picking Coach Bryant up and he was going to play golf. He's going to do this, that, but dude would know exactly where Coach Bryant was, and everybody would laugh at dude. And we go on the people from Jasper had us to go down on a fishing trip every year. This thing has gone on now for 70 years, 75 years. I didn't get to go this year because my wife's sick, but it was a fishing trip that we went down to Panama City and fished, and it turned into a golfing trip before it was over. And Coach Bryant, dude was not. It's not a good story unless you knew dude, but dude is this little short guy who he was always carrying on a bunch of crap all the time, and he was funny to be. So we were down there fishing one time, and we were on this big boat, and we had any time you catch a fish, you ring a bell sometimes, and you had great big reels. They were heavy, and you fish with cigar minnows, and you have to rear back and throw it. And some of them believe the further you threw it, the bigger the fish is going to be. Dude reared back and threw that thing and went in with it and went under. And they rang the bell, and everybody came running. Everybody. Coach Bryant wasn't on that trip. He wasn't on that. But they thought, dude's gone. Dude is gone under with a cigar minnow and all. And everybody's going, "Oh, he's gone, he's gone." And they were going crazy and hollering and screaming. And all of a sudden, dude just pops back out of the water. We were in deep water. I don't think that Mal Moore and I laughed. We got back to the Holiday Inn where we were staying. We laughed for 2 hours about how, of course, we added to it. And but dude went in, cigar minnow and all. But I knew some of the football coaches. I kept up with them pretty close. And Beef Stallings and I, when John Mark was born, One of my middle son was born about the same time. And when the Beebs got up enough money, Stallings got up enough money to go from a rental house to buy a house, I moved in his rental house. We were friends with a lot of those guys. And I wrote down one time, and I can't do it now. I wrote down all the coaches that had gone through Coach Bryant, Phil Cutchins and Pat Dye and Jerry Claiborne and on, of all the ones that had gone through that period of time. There was a lot of head coaches that were great coaches that left Coach Bryant and went there. A little bit like Coach Saban has here at Alabama.
Coach, how was it, the transition between being an assistant coach for so long and being the head coach? Did anything change in terms of your recruiting? Did you take over the recruiting role as head coach that you had done?
I hired the guys that could recruit. I hired Kevin Graham, Greg Polinsky. I hired some guys I thought they could really recruit.
Yeah.
And those guys that could recruit, I watched, when I was assistant coach, I would watch other assistant coaches, how they worked on the road, where they went, what they did. And I watched them very closely. And then when I got the job, I started going back to those guys I had seen I thought were good recruiters and tried to hire them. And we had a good staff. We had a couple of guys that I made a mistake on, that it didn't turn out as good as I wanted it to. But basically speaking, and the funny part was that I wasn't very hard to work for, but the look on my face, everybody thought I was. He's really hard. I wasn't hard to work for at all. As long as they recruited and worked hard and stayed after it, then I just wanted to be darn sure that they worked in the recruiting part of it. We had somebody handle the offense, somebody handle the defense, so they would have some kind of coaching recognition, so they could move on somewhere else to coach, maybe because they had been coach on the floor. So we did that. But no, we had good coaches and we got good players. I guess one of the memorable times, I don't know if y'all going to ask me this or not, but I'll go ahead, is when we had gone out to California to play, and we played Bob Boyd's team at Southern Cal. Bob was a really good coach. He was always one that could beat UCLA. And we played Georgetown. We played Georgetown with Patrick Ewing. And we went out there and played with our team, and we won both games. And they were good wins. 2 weeks after that, we would go out there and play UCLA. And UCLA was number one in the country. Y'all know the end of the story, but some people, I'll tell it. It's Sunday afternoon. I'm out in the hall getting a drink of water. And Coach Bryant comes through the double doors and for whatever reason kept walking. Generally speaking, he'd turn left, go down the elevator and be gone. He came down where I was and came in and sat down on the couch. And so I went in and pulled. That's the first time he'd ever been in my office. I'd always had to go to his. And so I went in, got a chair, and he started telling me stories about Vince Dooley and about how he mishandled Snake Stabler and just a lot of different things. I wish I had recorded it, but I didn't. And when he left, that was the last time I was to see him alive. He got sick on that Monday night, one of the places there, and I know it. I can't think of where he was, but I do know. I can't think right now.
Yeah, Jimmy Hinton's place.
Yeah, and so he got sick,
yeah.
And I knew something was pretty bad. The secretaries weren't saying much on phone calls. And on Wednesday afternoon, I guess it was Wednesday afternoon, Tuesday, I guess it was, they came down on the floor and said to me, "We're fixing to announce that Coach Bryant has passed away." And I've told this before, but I'll tell it again. And so we're trying to get ready to play the number one team in the country, and I didn't know whether we should play or not. I didn't know what Paul Jr.'s wishes were. I didn't know exactly what to do. So I went and called Paul Jr., and I said, "We're supposed to leave Thursday to play this game Saturday night." I think it was Saturday night.
Friday night. We were leaving Wednesday.
Okay.
Because I was on that trip with y'all.
Okay. We were leaving on Wednesday. You're telling it better than me. I couldn't remember. So anyway, once and I said to him, I just want to call and ask you what we need to do about this. And he just simply said, "Papa would have wanted you to play." And one of the great answers I had ever gotten, really, Papa would have wanted you to play.
Mm.
And so we went out. Of course, we won the game by 2 points and a heck of a win for us. And it was a heck of a win for Alabama basketball. And I did a crazy thing. I won't tell that story about discipline-wise. But after that, I would go out and see Mrs. Bryant a lot. And when you go see Miss Bryant, I would always get a kick out of her. She'd say, when Paul would sit over there in that chair, we wasn't playing good, I'd make him move to this chair. We started playing better. And so the next time when he'd sit over there, we weren't playing good, I'd move him over here. We'd play better. She was telling me all these stories about why they played better and so forth. And so it was cute. And about that time, there was a knock on the door. And the insurance company came in and she wanted to not be put on the machine to live. She wanted to die a natural death and not be and she asked me if I would sign for her. And I said, sure. Well, if that's what you want, that's what I'll do. And so I signed for her to be not to try to keep her alive. And she enjoyed basketball. Coach Bryant didn't like it because he didn't want to come down there and sit because he didn't like it. He would rather stay he stayed at the top of the Coliseum so he could watch it. He didn't want to come down there and sit because people would bug him about autographs. Right. He didn't want to sign no cotton picking autographs. And he wasn't about to sign him. That's the way that went. But he was, and I would ask him. I was looking at some of my stuff yesterday because I'm of an age where some of these things I've got are going to be given to somebody at my age. I've got one picture of Woody Hayes and Coach Bryant, and I decided I would ask Coach Bryant if he would sign that himself. A lot of times somebody else would sign Coach Bryant's name. I took that down to his office, and I said, Coach, would you sign this for me? This game with Woody Hayes is a big deal. He did for me, and I've got that. I got that one. The rest of them, a lot of times, other people would sign his name for him. But Coach Bryant was good to me. His point in time when we got there, basketball took a tough road. I told you about whether we could practice or not, and so those kind of things. But we got the new arena. He wanted us to make money. He wanted you to make money, and we were able to do that pretty good.
Coach, you recruited and coached some terrific players all through the 80s and into the 90s. Any recruiting stories that you can share? And I gave you a list of folks.
Yeah.
Ennis Watley, Bobby Lee Hurt, Buck Johnson, Derek McKee, Jim Farmer, Mark Godfrey, Terry Connor, Melvin Cheatham, Gary Waits, Keith Askins, Robert Ory.
You don't have it would be this show could go on for 2 years. I started recruiting Ennis and Bobby Lee when I was assistant, but by the time we got through recruiting them, I was head coach. Bobby Lee was the guy who was full of himself, just great. He's a great kid, and everybody in the country was after him, and Hawaii was after him. And so there's too much to tell about it. There's a guy who y'all know now who has a radio show statewide who, whatever, if you can figure it out, you can figure it out. He followed me in a truck up there all the time. And because he was wanting to write, he was trying to nail me or whatever. And I took Bobby Lee over to a sea place, and I bought him a bucket of chicken. And I set that bucket of chicken down in front of him, and he started eating that chicken. And Hawaii, he had called Hawaii. They had been there. And he had called them. They had gotten either San Francisco or L.A., wherever they were, and he called them to come back. He called them to come back. So we got through talking to him. When I got through talking to him, I tried to talk to him about this Hawaii thing, and he leaned back against the wall, and he said, I'm still going to Hawaii. They were going to give him $7 or $8 to cut sugar cane. And that was, I don't know how much an hour, I guess it was, I'm not sure. So I said to him, Bobby Lee, you don't need, you'll go out there and cut any cotton picking sugar cane. And one of the players, I got on blank, one of the players' daddies drove the school bus, and he had an old used car lot. and he put together an old car for Bobby Lee. That Booger Bear wouldn't go across the street. It was so old. But anyway, they came in, the NCAA. I got the picture on my wall here. The NCAA came, Sports Illustrated came in and said we bought him a car. That car was brutal. He couldn't drive it. It's one of those deals. If the phone rang, there's so many cars there, you'd have to look under every hood to answer the phone. It was just a big junk pile, is all it was. And so Friday afternoon, Jerry Rice, head coach, comes in there. Hawaii was there. I was there. And he said, this is enough of this. It's been going on 2 and 3 years. He said, I don't want anybody to talk to Bobby Lee, to his parents, to anybody this weekend. Monday morning, Bobby Lee is going to come in and announce where he's going to school. And that's going to be it. Whatever he says Monday morning is where he's going to go. Does everybody understand that? We all said, yeah. We left. I got in the car, went straight to his house. I didn't have anything to lose. I had to get the Booger Bear. So I went straight to his house. The guys who finally spoke to me years after that, they went to their motel and they were looking at each other. I said, I wonder where Wimp is. They get in the car and come out there and catch me. They catch I'm in a state car. They come out there and catch me. They said, why? After you said that, I said, my mother always told me if I put my hand behind my back and crossed my fingers, it didn't count. And so I said I didn't lie. My mother said that was okay. If you just cross your fingers, put your hand behind your back. And if whatever you say, it doesn't count against you. And so that's what we did. And Bobby Lee was a heck of a player and still a great person. He was terrific. And we worked really hard to get him. For 2 years, we worked to get him. And Enos Watley, in 38 years that I recruited, Enos Watley was the only guy that I know that did not show up for the official visit. We're going for the official visit, me and Leroy McClendon. The daddy is in the front yard. The daddy's in the front yard working on cars. Yeah, that's typical. He's working on cars. The mama has got a list of what she wants. I still got the list. She wanted $10 a month for church. And somebody just told her something for some groceries. It was just a little old list. It was a joke, but I think I still got it. And we promised. I said, yeah, we get stuff for you for church. Yeah, we get that. And he didn't show up. And we walking up the sidewalk. He ain't showed up yet. And I said, Leroy, how in the crap are we gonna sign somebody that don't show up for an official visit? He said, I don't know. I said, well, you better figure it out because we got to get him. I said, if we don't, Bartow never going to be in here and get him, and they'll give him more than church. They'll give him more than a church fee. They'll have a coach. They'll give him, those Booger Bears will give him a whole church. So I said, that church money we gave him, that ain't much money. I think it was $10. We got him, but that was quite different.
Coach, I became ticket manager in May of '87 and had a front row seat to many of your great teams. By that time, the late '80s, you'd begun wearing your plaid jackets.
Yeah.
And your popularity soared. And
Yeah.
I remember Tommy Limbaugh, who was my boss in the athletic department.
Tommy did a good job for us.
And Steve Sloan. And we worked closely with our marketing department to market you. We had Wimp Night and Plaid Palace, got the parquet floor. Yeah. What do you remember most about the atmosphere?
Well, we had one person that was against it. And Tommy did a good job. You did. All of you guys did because they felt like basketball could make money and we would do well. But had one that didn't want it to happen, and he's the same guy who cut Steve Sloan's guts out. But I wore a plaid sport coat to a game by accident, and when I picked up the paper the next day or so, they wrote something about it, and I wore it again. They wrote something about it again. And I was recruiting a guy over in Georgia, and I was talking to his mother, and I was telling her I wanted to come over there, and she said, "You gonna wear one of those plaid sport coats?" I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll wear one." So that that showed some help there. And then I went down to Florida to recruit a kid who was really good, and his little sister was by there. Was there with him, and the mother and daddy. And she came over and the mother said something about, that's one of those Plaid sport coaches. And the little sister came over and said, could I touch it? And I said, crap, can you? If your brother will sign right here, you can have it. It just stuck like that. And it was really good. We had a couple of people. We had one athletic director that didn't like it because whatever. But most of them liked it. And people liked it. And it caught on a lot, and people would come to the games account of it, and everybody wears white now this day and time or something, and it caught on pretty big. So it was.
Yeah, well, it was an honor to be part of that.
You did great with it. Tommy Limbaugh, I talk to him every now and then. He's right down the street from me.
Yeah.
When Steve passed away, there was no better athletic director than Steve Sloan. He was great.
Love
he was
Steve.
great. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
Sure.
Another memorable game was the 1992 2-point loss to Loyola Marymount in Oakland. I was on that trip with y'all, and one thing I remember the most is one of my hometown friends, Steve Gentry, took Annette and me on a 3-hour tour of San Francisco.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
So
we had
tell me
gone
about
out
that
there
game.
and we played Colorado State the first game, and we beat them. And we played Arizona, Lute Olson's team, and Lute Olson's team wasn't ready to play us. They were out there jamming around when we was in there getting ready to go out on the court to practice, to shoot, to get ready for the game. And we beat Arizona, so it meant we had to stay out there a week, which the athletic director didn't like because it cost money. So we stayed out there.
Yeah.
And I had studied Loyola Marymount some, and I had called a lot of coaches. And I never will forget, I talked to Dean Smith about it, and Dean said, Coach, you think you can run with them. If you run with them, they'll run you away. He said, they are faster than lightning, and they play in a different way. I decided that I would not freeze the ball, but I would try to withhold the ball from play a little bit and get better shots. We got beat 62-60, and undoubtedly I did the wrong thing. I wish, when what's his name, it was coaching Vegas, or one of them said Wimp had played with him, the kind of players he had, he'd have won. And he might have been right. I wasn't sure. And you should never play in order to keep from getting beat. I wasn't interested in no score. I didn't care. I just wanted to win the game. And I studied it and looked at it and talked to coaches who had played them when I had not played them. And every one of them told me the same cotton picking thing. So I just simply decided that we would do that.
Coach, you had a great career at Alabama, and you are still a cultural icon around the state and to Alabama fans. Needless to say, you've been blessed with so many years and a lifetime of cherished memories. How do you want to be remembered as Alabama's head coach?
I hope to be remembered as one that worked his kids hard, but that cared about them, that wanted to be darn sure that they graduated. I think life is this. When you go through tough times, and I wanted my guys to go through tough times. Sometimes you don't really like the tough times that you're going through until you get through with them. And then you look back on them and say, I wouldn't take anything for that. And especially is that true for guys who are going to play basketball on a higher level than SEC. The Robert Orrs and people like that. I used to mash Robert all the time. Everybody quits now. I asked Robert one time, I said, Robert, would you have quit me? He said, I'd have quit you, Coach, but my mama wouldn't let me. And that was a pretty good answer.
Yeah.
But that's what I don't know. People look at you different ways. What happened to me at the end, they think this and think that, but that's the way it goes. And that's okay. You can't always, you can't explain everything that need to be explained. And some people do things for a reason and whatever.
I wanted to encourage our viewers and listeners to listen to Wimp and Barry's radio show. Right. Every morning from 7 to 9 on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa, and they do a great job, have on great guests, and it's fun, especially when Wimp and Barry get into little tussles on the air.
It's more of a down home show, a little bit more. We get good guests.
Oh yeah,
our guests are good. We really do. I think our guests do a good job. We don't dive into football the way everybody else would like to have you dive into it, but we let the people that call in do the diving.
Yeah. So, I really enjoy it. I listen to it, most of it every morning.
Good.
Over here in the Birmingham market, we get Coach a couple of times a week. We get him in the Blue Plate Special there with a 3-man front, and we get him with Greg and Cole in the mornings, and we get to hear him over here as well.
I have to come up with some football questions when I get on that show real quick. I try to make them talking.
Coach, you hold your own now. You're being modest. You hold your own talking football. You do a good job.
I try to think of something that will make everybody interested, and I try to make them think of something that nobody's ever asked them. So we'll see.
Coach, I'll just tell you, as a kid growing up in the 70s and 80s, when I think about Alabama basketball, I think about you. Well, and so I just want to say thank you to you.
Yeah,
thank you for
I thank y'all for having me on. I've enjoyed it a great deal.
We and our listeners will be praying for y'all, and we're thankful for you. And Coach, we appreciate you taking the time to visit
both of you
with
guys.
us.
I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Coach.